Hello and welcome to the Monocle Weekly. For this week's show, I had the pleasure to speak with the directors of a film that I loved since I've seen a screening earlier in the year. It's called Unicorns, a cross-cultural romance about an Essex mechanic and a British Indian drag queen. Here are the directors Sally Hosaini and James Krishna Floyd with more.
Did you like my shirt?
Oh yeah, proper good.
Good. Oh, sexy. What's up?
I thought you were,
First time you kissed someone like me?
Gotta go.
Can we start again? You need money? I need a lift.
Sally Hosaini and James Krishna Floyd, welcome to Monocle Radio to talk about Unicorns, the film which I loved. I saw earlier this year, and so I'm so glad to have both of you here in the studio. I'll start with you, Sally. How was it to actually, there were two directors, right? Both you and James. How challenging was that? I mean, are you used to be a co-director?
No, so this was my first time co-directing, actually. Going into it, James and I discussed a lot, like how would we split the work, how would we maybe have different roles. And then when it actually came to making the film and pre-production, we realised we both wanted to be involved with everything together. So we both just did everything together. And it worked really organically, and it was a positive experience.
And that's your first feature film as a director?
Yeah, and as a writer as well.
Well.
Yeah, and it's a very personal one to me. Everything that happens in the film has either happened in my life or to a friend of mine called Asifa Lahore, who is a very well-known queer South Asian drag queen, and also a lot of other South Asian drag queens that I know. So, it's very authentic and personal.
If I might continue with what you just said, James, how important for you was to represent this authenticity in that community? Because for me, I have to say, I didn't know much about it, but it looked quite real. And even the scenes, because I know that area around Essex quite well, around Ilford as well, and I was like, that's quite realistic in a way.
Yeah, well, I mean, the key to all these things are obviously drawing from your own experiences, but also, I think, hiring the right people who can get that reality onto screen from our heads of departments, but most importantly, our cast. So Jason Patel, who plays the lead South Asian drag queen Aisha Ashik, Jason is this incredible real-life unicorn, He's a queer South Asian singer and actor, and he brought a lot of his own experiences to his role. And then also we have a lot of actors who play the supporting roles who are real Gaysians who haven't acted before. So, that's where probably you're sensing that reality in detail.
Although I need to know, what is that club that Asha was performing? That's a cool one, right? Sally, I'll bring you, before we started the interview, we were talking about hope in films as well. And of course, there's some really tough scenes in this film. But I think like perhaps other films of yours, like The Swimmers as well, I think we need that sense of hope. Were you worried that you wanted, I'm not going to review the end, but there is a sense of hope as well there at the end. Is that important for your films in a way?
Yeah, I mean, every film, you find the ending that is right for the story. But as a filmmaker, you do have a responsibility for what you put out in the world. And I think your personality really colours the work. James and I, when we were making the film, really felt that we wanted the Gaysian community to feel seen. And if there was a message within the film, we wanted that to be one of optimism and hope, despite some of the darkness and the tough things that they have to face, because they're very much a minority within a minority. When we were casting the film, actually, we were really brought to tears because Laura Windows, our casting director, she'd put out this casting call on social media, and we were receiving a lot of tapes from people, and sometimes people would record messages with their audition saying, just reading the description of the character has made me feel seen. And one audition, someone was auditioning in their bathroom keeping their voice low while you could hear the family in the background because, they didn't want them to know what they were doing. And, we were really brought to tears and made us realise the importance of what we were doing and how much representation matters.
It really does, actually. One of my favourite scenes in the film is a very simple one, but I think Aisha and her friends were just enjoying themselves in a car. I think it was very simple, but the humour was a little bit kind of, nasty but fun as well. I think that's so important, scenes like this as well. So it's not just also the drone, but this kind of this day-to-day things as well, right?
Absolutely, and that's very realistic. Some of the funniest people that I've ever met are Asians and are close friends of mine. And, there are several stories that kind of portray that. But one is that I remember there was a huge fight on one of the nights I was at between these two queens. And one of them ended up on the back of an ambulance and the other one was on the curb. And it was really vicious. But within 5 minutes, they were hugging each other and joking about it. And, that's how I think a lot of people, not just Asians, but, we deal with the darkness in life is we find some sort of humour and hope. And I think cinema in particular, I think can portray that in a pretty potent way.
Get in. Oh, you look lush. Thanks. Who's excited for my track?
Are you okay?
I get death threats. All of us queens do.
Take me home.
Let's talk about the casting. I think both Ben Hardy and Jason Patel, amazing, right? Especially you, James, you wrote the script. So it's quite interesting to see who is actually going to perform. Those characters are quite based on real characters in a way, right? I want to know more about the process of casting those two amazing actors.
Casting Ben was quite simple because I knew Ben's work, he knew mine and Sally's work, and I had some friends in common. And he has this incredible quality, Ben, where he can say a lot with no words. It's a very physical performance, as those kind of real-life characters are. Casting Aisha was extremely tricky, and Sally and I were quite concerned, actually. And it wasn't until Laura Windows, our casting director, presented us with Jason that we had some hope. Really, once we got Jason in a room with Ben, as with all love stories, there's only one thing that matters, and that's the chemistry of the actors. And it has to be organic and authentic. It can't be faked. And literally the first take they did in their screen test, it was as if they'd sort of fallen in love overnight. But then we came to the realisation, Sally and I, we actually had a look with each other. We went on the tube on the way back and we said, you know what? These two have such incredible chemistry. We don't want to ruin it by them getting to know each other too well. We want to keep them in the honeymoon phase. So we said to the actor, look, we would like you two to not exchange numbers, not do what most
Don't be
actors
friends.
do. Don't be friends. Don't see each other during pre-production. And we want you to really get to know each other on camera. And actually the first scene they shot is the all-important love scene. And without ruining it, obviously it's a very intimate scene. And that's probably why that scene's quite raw, and you can feel them discovering each other and how vulnerable they are. So, really credit to Jason and Ben. They really threw themselves into these roles.
Very committed actors.
Very, yeah.
And this is Jason's first film as well.
First film. What a start, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting, there's drama, there's representation, but there's also elements of rom-com, right, Sally? I think this is a film for everyone. It's a story that, you don't need to be engaged. I think it's literally for everyone when I saw it. What do you think?
I agree. It's fun. Yeah, and entertaining as all good films are. And a lot of people come out saying, I was really surprised at how funny it was. Because even though there is drama, obviously it tackles topics that are, have darkness in them. But that tone of fun and jokes and entertainment were very important to us. And we've really seen now, because it's the featured film for Pride Month in View Cinemas, and that's in 90 cinemas across the UK, it means that people who normally would have to travel to London or a capital or somewhere to see a film like this can actually just go to their local View and watch it. And seeing different audiences connecting with it, the View audience, who are mainly going there for mainstream cinema, embrace it, is really wonderful. Because it's a universal story. ultimately it's about two characters, two people realizing that how society has defined them might not be who they really are, and having the courage to let go of that and to be their true selves. And I think that's a story that no matter where you're from, you can buy into.
Because I know we're talking about, but even, Ben's character, he also grew up as this mechanic in Essex in a very macho environment as well. So there's also that side of things as well.
Yeah, right? At first appearance, you see these two very different worlds and this cross-culture. You think that they couldn't be more different, but then as the film progresses, you realise how similar their worlds are actually. And that's what connects our two characters.
How do you feel, James, now to see your story? It's been in festivals. I think many people have seen it, but now it's a wide release. It's going to be, as Sally was saying, at the View Locals. It must be quite a special feeling, even though it's been, a year, right? Since I think it premiered, it was in Toronto?
Toronto International Film Festival. Yeah. Oh, when was this?
September
2023.
Almost a year, let's say.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's overwhelming at times. I think I've had some moments where I think, I walked into the View West End the other day and, there was all these kind of digital posters of the film all over the place. And yeah, it's an incredible feeling. But at the same time, I think, I've worked so hard and so has Sally to get the film here. There's also a real sense of pride, I think. I'm just so happy that the movie is, like Sally said, has at least the chance to be seen by the average person as well, because ultimately it's a love story about two people who happen to be either queer or fluid. It's quite a classic love story in that sense. I think we can all relate to it, not just South Asians, not just people from Essex, not just queer people. I think it's more than that.
And I loved it. Listen, Sally and James, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sally Hosaini there and James Krishna Floyd. Unicorns will be out in the UK and Irish cinemas on the 5th of July. Expect a release in the US later this year. The show was edited by Steph Chungo and I am Fernando Augusto Pacheco. Thank you for listening.